I raise my champagne glass, catching Dad's eye across the dining table. His smile, the one that still transforms his face into the Dad I remember from childhood, reaches his blue eyes for the first time today. The late afternoon sunlight streams through the bay windows, catching on the cut crystal glasses Mom collected. Dad built those windows himself, installing them at the perfect angle to capture western light. Just like he built everything in this house, from the coffered ceilings to the built-in bookshelves that still hold Mom's gardening encyclopedias. To 72 years, I say, voice stronger than I feel. And to many more right here in the home you built with Mom. The salmon I spent hours preparing, cedar plank wild caught with Mom's maple glaze recipe, sits perfectly arranged on Grandma Cooper's china. The pear and arugula salad with candied walnuts waits in Mom's serving bowl. The marionberry galette cools on the kitchen counter, its scent mingling with the roses I cut fresh from Mom's garden this morning. Every detail crafted to make this birthday perfect for Dad. Clayton stands suddenly, straightening his charcoal suit jacket, the kind that costs more than I make in a month at my remote marketing job. His practiced confidence fills the room as he taps his knife against his glass. The sound rings sharp and intrusive in the warm air. While we're making toasts, he announces, voice carrying that boardroom authority he's perfected at Ridgeway Capital, I have some news that will make Dad's life even better. He places his hand on Dad's shoulder. The POA is signed over to me. Next week, the house goes on the market. Dad moves to Cedar Ridge Manor. My champagne glass slips from suddenly numb fingers. It shatters against the hardwood floor. Dad installed 35 years ago, each plank hand-selected for its grain. The sound barely registers as I stare at Clayton's triumphant smile, at Clarissa's hand possessively gripping Dad's other shoulder, at Dad's confused blinking. It's for the best, Leonard, Clarissa says, her voice honey-sweet with an undertone of steel. Her ash-blonde hair is pulled back in a severe bun, clinic administrator efficiency in every line of her body. Remember how tired you've been lately? The room tilts sideways. The salmon I so carefully prepared grows cold on bone china plates as bile rises in my throat. Dad's eyes, Mom's favorite feature, search the room in bewilderment. But this is my house, he says, voice small and uncertain. Eleanor and I built it together. I grip the edge of the dining table, struggling to breathe through the vice, suddenly crushing my chest. The implications crash through me in devastating waves. Cedar Ridge Manor, next week, POA, market. Each word is a wrecking ball to the life I've built these past 2 years. Dad never agreed to sell this house. I manage, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. This is Mom's home. The memory surfaces with painful clarity. Mom kneeling in rich soil, 10-year-old me beside her, learning to plant the rose bushes that still bloom in the backyard. Her hands guided mine, showing me how to pack the earth just right. These will be here for decades, Stevie, she'd said. That's why we plant roots, so something beautiful lives on after us. Those roses still bloom every summer, visible through the kitchen window, where Dad drinks his morning coffee. I left my $92,000 marketing job when Dad started forgetting appointments, when the refrigerator contained 6 gallons of milk because he couldn't remember he'd already bought some, when his checks started bouncing because he'd forgotten to deposit his pension. When the diagnosis came, early cognitive decline, not full dementia yet, but headed there. The job was replaceable. Dad wasn't. Clayton's sudden interest makes horrible sense now. His visits increased only after Dad's diagnosis. Always discussing finances, always finding moments alone with Dad. While I was caring for Dad day after day, Clayton was planning this. Dad's gaze sharpens momentarily, clarity breaking through the strange fog that's been present all day. Eleanor's roses, he whispers. I promised her I'd never leave them. Clarissa squeezes his shoulder, her French manicured nails digging slightly into the fabric of his favorite blue button-down. Leonard, remember what the doctor said about getting agitated. It's not good for your heart. And my analytical mind finally breaks through the shock. Dad's confusion today seems different, not his usual forgetfulness, but something deeper. His movements are sluggish, his eyes glazed in a way I haven't seen before. When did Clayton get POA? Dad never mentioned signing anything. I step between Dad and Clarissa, placing myself physically as a barrier. Nothing happens until I see this POA. Dad doesn't leave until he chooses to. Clayton laughs, the sound both familiar and foreign, the same laugh from childhood bike races but twisted with adult condescension. Always the dramatic little sister. This isn't your decision. Ever. I look at the house around us, every beam and doorframe measured by Dad's hands, every wall painted with Mom supervising. The home where Dad carried Mom across the threshold, where they raised us, where she died, where her garden still blooms. Stevie. Clarissa says, her voice clinical and cold, your father needs professional care. You're being selfish keeping him here, when he could have round-the-clock attention. The power imbalance hits me full force. Clayton, with apparent legal authority. Clarissa controls Dad's medications. Their united front against Dad's best interests, against his explicit wishes. Dad's eyes look wrong, not the usual confusion where he searches for words or forgets what year it is. This is something different, more like sedation. While Clayton describes Cedar Ridge Manor's luxury accommodations and state-of-the-art memory care unit, I notice Dad's weekly pill organizer on the sideboard. I pocket it when Clarissa looks away, an instinct I can't fully explain. I lean close to Dad's ear, my hand finding his. His fingers, the ones that taught me to hammer my first nail, to measure twice and cut once, feel thinner than last week. Dad, I won't let them take your home, I promise. I step onto the back porch, needing air, needing space, needing to think. My hands tremble as I pull out my phone and call Uncle Gordon. They're trying to sell Dad's house. I say when he answers, my voice breaking on the last word. Slow down, Stevie. Gordon's voice carries the steady reassurance that made him such a good real estate lawyer before retirement. When did Clay get power of attorney? Len never mentioned this to me. I don't know, I admit, watching a hummingbird hover near Mom's fuchsia. But Clarissa's showing Cedar Ridge Manor brochures to everyone, and Dad seems drugged, Gordon. Not just confused, something's wrong. Document everything, Gordon says after a moment. I'll be there tomorrow morning. Call Dr. Morgan, she specializes in elder care. She'll know what to look for. I take a deep breath, steadying myself against the porch rail Dad replaced last summer. Should I confront them now? Demand to see the POA? Gather evidence first, Gordon advises. If they're doing what you suspect, confronting them without proof will just make them more careful. When I return inside, Clarissa is showing a realtor's business card to Dad's longtime friend Bill Harrison. The whispers follow me as I move through the room, collecting empty plates. So sudden. Poor Len. Is Stevie overreacting? I watch Dad through the dining room doorway as he sits in his favorite armchair, looking lost in the home he built. The home where he taught me to measure lumber and mix concrete. Where he and Mom slow danced on their anniversary each year until she died. Dad built this house brick by brick for Mom. I won't let them take it from him. 3 days after the birthday catastrophe, my hands tremble as I stare at the documents spread across Dad's mahogany desk, the one he refinished after finding it abandoned at a yard sale 20 years ago. The grain of the wood seems to ripple under the papers, each one more damning than the last. Clayton's consulting invoices stare back at me. $58,400 billed to Dad at 4 times market rate. The itemized lists include vague services like financial assessment and property management consultation. Each invoice bears Clayton's company letterhead, Ridgeway Capital's sleek logo lending an air of legitimacy to the theft. Bank statements reveal Clarissa's handiwork. $4,200 in cash withdrawals labeled simply as household expenses. Dad's refrigerator contains a single carton of milk, half empty, and pantry shelves with canned soup I bought last week. Nothing that justifies thousands in cash. My stomach lurches when I discover text messages on Dad's phone from 6 months ago, forwarded to his email. Clayton to Clarissa. Cedar Ridge Manor has an opening next quarter. Time to start laying groundwork with Dad. Mention how hard maintaining the house has become. The doorbell rings. I slide the evidence into a folder and tuck it into my laptop bag before opening the door to Uncle Gordon. His silver hair is still cut military precise, but worry lines deepen around his eyes. You look like hell, Stevie, he says, pulling me into a hug that smells of Old Spice and coffee. I feel worse. I lead him into the kitchen, pouring the coffee I've kept warm. They've been planning this for months. Gordon places his weathered leather briefcase on the counter and extracts a manila folder. I found something at my office. The POA Clay is using it's from when Len had hip surgery 3 years ago. Before any cognitive issues. I grip the counter edge. How is that even legal? It's not straightforward. The document doesn't have an expiration date. Technically, it's still valid, but given Len's current medical condition, it's highly questionable. The doorbell rings again, Dr. Rachel Morgan stands on the porch, her salt and pepper hair pulled into a practical bun, medical bag in hand. Within minutes, she's reviewing Dad's medication list at the kitchen table. "These dosages don't match what I prescribed last month," she says, tapping the orange prescription bottles. Her finger stops at one labeled from Westside Pharmacy. "This should be 5 milligrams, not 10 milligrams, and this one I never prescribed this at all." A cabinet door slams shut in the hallway bathroom. Clarissa emerges, phone pressed to her ear, voice dropping to a whisper as she notices us watching. I move silently across the kitchen, stopping just behind the doorway. "Once the house sells, we'll have enough for the downtown penthouse," Clarissa murmurs. The market assessment came in higher than expected, nearly 7 figures. Cold rage crystallizes in my chest as the pieces lock together, Dad's increasing confusion coinciding with larger withdrawals. Clayton's sudden interest in helping precisely when Dad's cognitive symptoms appeared. I return to the kitchen, meeting Gordon's eyes. "The house was meant for all of us," I whisper. "Mom's will specified it stayed in the family." Dr. Morgan flips through her notes. "Leonard's retirement savings are being depleted at an alarming rate. At this pace, they'll be gone within 18 months. My laptop pings with an email notification. I click it open, blood draining from my face. Clarissa's email account, still connected to Dad's desktop computer, shows messages about interviewing home care agencies in Arizona, where Clayton owns a vacation property. "They're not just selling the house," I whisper. "They're planning to move him across the country." I pull out my journal where I've tracked Dad's good and bad days. Patterns emerge with sickening clarity. His worst confusion always follows Clarissa, setting up his medication. When I administer his pills, his cognition improves within days. Gordon peers over my shoulder. "You've been documenting this?" "Just trying to track his symptoms." I flip through pages of notes. "But look, every time he agrees to something Clayton wants, it's after Clarissa has handled his medication for several days." Dr. Morgan examines the pill organizer I pocketed during the birthday party, comparing contents with prescription labels. "These don't match. Some of these pills aren't in any of his bottles." A strategic clarity replaces my initial shock. I photograph the pills, the organizer, the prescription bottles, labeling each image with date and time. My marketing brain shifts into crisis management mode: evidence, documentation, and chain of custody. "They're not just opportunistic," I say, voice steadier than I feel. "They're actively causing harm." Gordon's expression hardens. The POA is questionable at best, if Len was being medicated when he supposedly signed it. "We need to know what we're dealing with," Dr. Morgan says. "Why the sudden urgency to move him?" The answer comes when Gordon accesses public records on his laptop. Clarissa's financial troubles include $38,000 in credit card debt, primarily jewelry purchases from high-end retailers. Clayton's name appears in a business journal article about a failed tech startup, a $145,000 investment gone. The pieces fit with horrible precision. The front door opens. Clayton strides in wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Clarissa intercepts him in the hallway, but their voices carry. "We need to accelerate the timeline," Clayton says. "Cedar Ridge requires $85,000 up front. Once we sell this place, we'll free up enough equity to cover it and still come out ahead." Clarissa's voice drops lower. "What about Stevie?" "Dad's signature is on the papers. If she fights this, Adult Protective Services might question her ability to care for him. A woman who quit her job, with no steady income, isolating her father from proper medical care? Who do you think they'll believe, us or her?" My hands curl into fists. They aren't cartoon villains twirling mustaches, they're worse. They've convinced themselves they're doing what's necessary. That makes them more dangerous. "Dad would want us to preserve family wealth," Clayton continues, "not watch it disappear into assisted living." "Your father gets confused, Stevie." Clarissa's practice line drifts from the hallway. "He agreed to this when he was having a good day." I meet Gordon's eyes across the kitchen. Dr. Morgan closes her medical bag with a decisive click. "We need to move quickly," Gordon says. "The good news is, I've reviewed our options. We need new POA documents that reflect Len's current wishes." "Let's meet in the garden," I suggest, away from listening ears. 10 minutes later, we gathered beneath Mom's maple tree. Spring leaves filter sunlight across Gordon's face as he outlines our strategy. "Clayton's using an outdated POA. We can challenge this legally. But we need to document Len's capacity when he's not being over-medicated. Dr. Morgan nods. I can document your father's capacity on his good days. He can still make decisions when properly medicated. The timing is critical. I take a deep breath, feeling the garden soil beneath my feet, the same soil where Mom taught me patience. I've accepted a remote marketing job. It doesn't pay what I made before, but it will fund what we need to do. I won't let them win through financial attrition. Gordon squeezes my shoulder. We'll need medical documentation, financial records, witness statements. This won't be quick or easy. Neither was building this house, I say, looking up at the windows Dad installed by hand. But it was worth it. So is this. The breeze carries the scent of Mom's roses. For the first time since the birthday party, I feel something beyond fear, something with sharper edges and clearer purpose. I won't just protect Dad, I'll protect everything he and Mom created together. No matter what it costs. I snap another photo of Dad's pill organizer, carefully documenting the small blue tablet nestled among his prescribed medications. 7 days of methodical observation have revealed a pattern so disturbing my hands tremble as I label each image with date and time. There it is again, I whisper, zooming in on the photo. The blue pill appears every other day, always in the evening compartment, always when Clarissa prepares his medication. Dr. Morgan's voice echoes in my mind from yesterday's phone call. That's not on your father's prescription list, Stevie. It's a sedative strong enough to significantly impair cognition when combined with his other medications. The living room floor around me resembles a war room. Medication logs spread across the coffee table. Dad refinished last spring. Financial statements showing Clayton's exorbitant consulting fees, and printed text messages between Clayton and Clarissa about keeping Dad manageable for realtor visits. My phone buzzes with Gordon's text. Security cameras installed in the living room and hallway. All legal. Recording to cloud storage only you can access. Relief washes through me. After Clarissa brought a parade of strangers through the house last week, just friends interested in craftsman architecture, the cameras became essential. Dad had been particularly confused that day, barely recognizing our neighbors of 30 years. The first notification from the new security system arrives that evening while I'm working in the garden. Eleanor's roses need pruning, and the familiar routine helps clear my mind. The alert shows movement in the kitchen, Clarissa standing at the counter with Dad's pill organizer open before her. I freeze, pruning shears suspended mid-cut, watching through my phone as she glances furtively over her shoulder before removing something from her pocket. Her back blocks the view momentarily, but when she steps away, I can see she's rearranged the pills in tomorrow's compartments. For the first time since that birthday dinner, power shifts subtly in my direction. No longer am I operating on suspicion alone, I have evidence. The most damning proof arrives 2 days later. Gordon forwards me the security footage he reviewed overnight. Clayton sitting at Dad's desk, practicing Dad's signature on blank documents, comparing it against old checks. The timestamp shows 11:42 p.m., long after Dad has gone to bed. We've got another piece of the puzzle, Gordon tells me over coffee the next morning. His voice remains low even though Dad is outside trimming the hedges during one of his more lucid periods. Cedar Ridge Manor requires an $85,000 upfront payment for their premium suite, exactly the amount Clayton needs to cover his investment losses. I stare into my coffee cup, the pieces finally forming a complete picture. We won't confront them yet. I decided, surprising myself with my own restraint. We need to build an airtight case. Gordon nods approvingly. You're thinking like a lawyer now. Later that afternoon, Dr. Morgan conducts her weekly assessment during one of Dad's clear days. The transformation is striking without the mystery sedative. His eyes bright with recognition, his hands steady as he waters Mom's ferns. Leonard has mild cognitive impairment, Doctor. Morgan confirms as we stand in the kitchen, watching Dad through the window. But he absolutely retains decision-making capacity when properly medicated. She hands me her formal assessment, another crucial document for our growing arsenal. 2 days later, Clayton texts that he's bringing realtor Trent Holloway for a final walkthrough before listing. I arrange the evidence in a leather portfolio, the one Mom gave me, when I landed my first marketing job, and wait in the foyer where Eleanor's favorite landscape painting still hangs. The doorbell chimes at exactly 10. Clayton enters first, his expensive charcoal suit a stark contrast to the casual polo shirts he wore when helping Dad build the backyard deck. Behind him stands Trent Holloway, sandy hair, Brooks Brothers tie, Rolex watch, the epitome of successful real estate. Mr. Holloway. I say before Clayton can speak, extending my hand. I should inform you this house isn't legally available for sale. Clayton's face flushes. My sister is having difficulty accepting father's decision, he says smoothly, placing a hand on Holloway's shoulder to guide him past me. I stand my ground. Actually, I have documentation you should review before proceeding. I open the portfolio, maintaining eye contact with Holloway. For your professional protection. The realtor hesitates, glancing between us. This is Dr. Morgan's capacity assessment confirming my father retains decision-making ability when not improperly medicated. I explain, passing him the first document. These are photographs documenting medication tampering specifically, administration of non-prescribed sedatives coordinated with your scheduled visits. Holloway's expression shifts from annoyance to concern as I continue. This is video evidence of my brother practicing my father's signature on blank documents. I say, displaying the time-stamped still image on my tablet. And this is a legal analysis from Gordon Cooper, former senior partner at Westlake Legal, regarding the outdated power of attorney my brother is attempting to use. Trent Holloway takes a deliberate step backward, straightening his tie. I can't be involved in a disputed property sale. He says, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. Clayton, you assured me this was straightforward. It is straightforward, Clayton insists, his voice rising. My father signed the paperwork. She's just... I'll need to see clear documentation of current power of attorney and capacity assessments before proceeding. Holloway interrupts, already retreating toward the door. Call my office when the situation is resolved. The sound of the front door closing echoes through the entryway. Clayton's carefully constructed facade crumbles, revealing the desperation beneath. You have no right to interfere, he hisses, stepping toward me. Do you have any idea what this house could sell for in this market? I stand taller, feeling an unfamiliar calm. I have every right to protect my father. The authorities will agree. Something in my voice, perhaps the certainty, perhaps the implied threat, makes him pause. This is a temporary setback, he says finally, adjusting his cuffs. The house will sell, Stevie. Dad can't live here forever, and you know it. I say nothing as he walks out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the stained glass panels Dad restored last year. The victory feels hollow but significant, a battle won in what promises to be a longer war. Gordon arrives 20 minutes later, expression brightening when I tell him what happened. You handled that perfectly, Stevie, he says, squeezing my shoulder. My phone rings, doctor. Morgan calling with the lab results from Dad's blood test. We have medical evidence now, she confirms. The blood work shows the sedative. This strengthens your case considerably. As I hang up, Martha Walsh from next door appears at the kitchen door with a casserole dish, her silver hair catching the afternoon light. We saw that realtor leaving, she says, placing the dish on the counter. Everyone's been worried about Len. Bill and I noticed he only seems confused when Clarissa's been around. She lowers her voice. The whole block is talking about how you stood up to Clayton. The support feels like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. For the first time since this began, I realize I'm not fighting alone. Dad shuffles into the kitchen, his movements steadier today. He glances at the casserole, then at me, a moment of perfect clarity in his eyes. Eleanor would be proud of you, he says, reaching for my hand. Protecting our home. Gordon clears his throat, emotion briefly overcoming his lawyer's composure. We've bought time, Stevie, but Clayton won't give up easily. As Martha leaves, promising to spread the word about taking turns watching the house, doctor, Morgan calls again with her final assessment report. I've documented everything for a potential elder abuse case, she says. The question now is whether to file formal charges. I look at Dad as he stands by the window, gazing at Mom's garden. The roses need pruning. The soil needs turning. The bench needs a fresh coat of paint. All tasks he can still manage on good days. All connections to Mom he would lose at Cedar Ridge Manor. Should I press charges now? I wonder aloud after hanging up, or build a stronger case for complete protection. The weight of the decision settles on my shoulders as I join Dad at the window, watching a hummingbird hover near Mom's fuchsia, the same view he's treasured for 35 years. Gordon's dining room table disappeared beneath a sea of papers. Bank statements, medical records, prescription bottles arranged in rows like chess pieces. 1 week after confronting the realtor, I'd transformed my uncle's home into something between a war room and a detective's office. Hand me that blue folder, I said, not looking up from the timeline I was constructing. Every suspicious transaction, every medication change, Every day, Dad seemed unusually confused, all plotted with military precision. Gordon slid the folder across the table. "You've become quite the investigator." I didn't respond. The anger that had fueled me through the realtor confrontation had burned away, replaced by something colder, more focused, a detached objectivity I'd never experienced before. The timeline revealed patterns invisible in isolation. Clayton's visits always preceded large withdrawals. Clarissa's solo medication sessions always preceded Dad's bad days. "Clayton will escalate," I said, tapping my pencil against a notepad filled with bullet points. "The realtor was just opening moves. He'll likely claim I'm obstructing necessary care." Gordon nodded, adjusting his reading glasses. "People who rush into these fights often lose, Stevie. Your brother has resources. He has Clarissa's medical credentials. They present well." I studied the photograph of Dad's pill organizer, comparing each compartment's contents with his actual prescriptions. "I can't afford anger right now," I said. "Dad needs clear thinking." The dining room windows framed Gordon's backyard maple trees, their leaves turning copper in the sunlight. The same trees Mom had pointed out 30 years ago, teaching me to recognize the difference between sugar maples and red maples. "We need to protect Len medically, legally, and financially," Gordon said, spreading 3 separate legal pads before me. "One front isn't enough." I pulled Mom's leather-bound address book from my bag, opening to the inventory I'd begun creating. "This house isn't just property," I said, running my finger down the list. "Dad's workshop tools, he taught Clayton to use that lathe when he was 12. Mom's gardening bench where she taught me to plant bulbs. The Dutch door Dad installed when Mom complained about wanting fresh air without letting neighborhood cats inside." Gordon watched me, his expression softening. "You're thinking like a professional now, treating this like a hostile business takeover." The comparison resonated. In marketing, I'd learned to separate emotions from strategy, to identify vulnerabilities in competitor campaigns without taking their maneuvers personally. Clayton wasn't just my brother now, he was an adversary with clear objectives, predictable tactics, and exploitable weaknesses. "Three-pronged strategy," I said, writing the words in bold letters across a fresh page. "New legal documents, medical intervention, financial protection. Get it?" Gordon nodded approvingly. The realtor confrontation felt good, but it was just one battle. This requires sustained campaign thinking. I closed Mom's address book, setting it aside with uncharacteristic gentleness. The leather cover had worn thin at the corners from decades of her hands opening it, calling friends, organizing neighborhood gatherings. "We need systems, not just documents," I said, opening my laptop. I created folders labeled with clinical precision, medication logs, financial transactions, cognitive assessments. Daily care tasks transformed into evidence collection opportunities. Dr. Morgan arrived an hour later, carrying a leather medical bag that looked like something from another era. She set a fresh prescription bottle on the table. "This is the proper regimen," she said, voice carrying the quiet authority of 40 years in geriatric medicine. "I've marked administration times. Document his responses daily." She demonstrated the proper way to track each medication, explaining the expected effects versus what we'd been seeing. "This isn't just about proving wrongdoing. It's about establishing his baseline cognitive function when properly medicated." Gordon spread legal documents across the table. "These will be ready for Len's signature during his next documented lucid period. New power of attorney naming both you and me as co-agents. Healthcare directive, will revision." I nodded, absorbing the technical details while my mind raced ahead. "We need observers when I can't be there. The Harrisons across the street, Martin next door. People who can document visitors without raising suspicions." "Financial protection measures first," Gordon said. "I've prepared paperwork to freeze his major accounts. Nothing moves without dual authorization." I opened a folder containing my research on elder financial abuse laws, case precedents, documentation requirements, burden of proof standards. Not light reading, but necessary ammunition. "Legal cameras in the medication areas," I said. "Small enough not to notice, but high resolution." Dr. Morgan nodded approvingly. "Document everything without alerting them. Once they know we're building a case, they'll change tactics." The coordinated approach took shape, each ally assuming specific roles. Gordon, handling legal documents. Dr. Morgan monitoring medical evidence. Neighbors establishing a rotation for house surveillance. Each element strengthened our position while Clayton remained unaware of our full preparation. My phone rang unexpectedly. Gordon's expression tightened as I answered. Miss Cooper? This is Sandra Wilkins from Adult Protective Services. We've received a complaint regarding your father, Leonard Cooper. My stomach dropped. The room tilted sideways. A complaint? My voice sounded distant, foreign. Yes. Your brother has expressed concerns about isolation and medication management. We're required to investigate all complaints. I'll need to schedule a home visit. I gripped the edge of the table. They're trying to take Dad away completely, I whispered to Gordon after ending the call. Doctor. Morgan's hand settled firmly on my shoulder. This is actually predictable, she said. Clayton's escalating because the realtor approach failed. I'll testify about Leonard's actual condition and treatment. The papers spread before me blurred momentarily as fear threatened to overwhelm strategy. Then clarity returned. This wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about Dad's freedom, his dignity. I straightened my shoulders, turning to face my allies. They're playing hardball, I said, voice steady despite the fear churning beneath the surface. So will we. 2 days later, the dining room in Gordon's Victorian Craftsman was transformed into our war room. Maps of legal jurisdictions and timelines of Dad's medication cycles plaster the mahogany walls. Dad's pill organizer, the one I pocketed during his birthday party, sits in an evidence bag next to Dr. Morgan's sworn statement about the unidentified sedative. This isn't just about stopping a house sale anymore, Gordon says, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he reviews our documentation. This is systematic elder abuse with potential criminal implications. I nod, cataloging another bank statement showing Clarissa's $800 withdrawal marked simply as household. Dad's household expenses haven't exceeded $400 monthly since Mom died. How's the video documentation coming, Doctor? Morgan asks, her silver-framed glasses catching the afternoon light as she enters with her medical bag. Cameras are operational in all medication areas and entrances. I answer, sliding my laptop toward her. The screen shows Dad in his workshop, carefully sanding a birdhouse. His movements are precise today, one of his clear periods after I administered his proper medication this morning. Perfect, Doctor. Morgan says. I'll document his capacity while he's lucid. We need date and timestamps on everything. Gordon slides a thick stack of legal documents across the table. New power of attorney naming you and me as co-agents. Healthcare directive giving you primary authority. Financial safeguards requiring dual signatures for any withdrawal over $500. My hand rests momentarily on the papers. Every page represents another brick in the fortress we're building around Dad, around Mom's roses, around their legacy. The elder abuse hotline contact is programmed into your speed dial. Gordon continues, along with the prosecutor's office and 3 different support groups specializing in medication manipulation cases. My gaze drifts to the window where Dad's profile is visible through the workshop doorway. His familiar movements, measuring twice, cutting once, echo through decades of memories. Every precise cut of his saw reinforces my resolve. We're preparing for war, I say quietly. Not just another skirmish. The words feel strange in my mouth. Just weeks ago, I was coordinating marketing campaigns for sustainably sourced coffee beans. Now I'm documenting medication tampering and financial exploitation patterns with the precision of a federal prosecutor. My fingers trace the timeline we've created. The blue dots representing Dad's clear days align perfectly with the green dots showing when I administered his medication. The red dots, his confused periods, align with Clarissa's medication schedule. The pattern is unmistakable. Dr. Morgan nods toward the comprehensive binder I've assembled. Your documentation is exceptional, Stevie. Most families don't realize what's happening until the house is sold and accounts are drained. The validation should feel good. Instead, it amplifies the weight settling across my shoulders. Dad, trusted Clayton, welcomed Clarissa into our family. Their betrayal isn't just financial, it's an assault on the very foundation of our home. My phone chimes with a security alert. I tap the notification, revealing footage of Clarissa entering the main house through the back door, the one leading to Dad's office where my laptop usually sits. She's at the house, I say, my heartbeat accelerating, and she's heading toward my computer. Gordon peers over my shoulder at the footage. Did you leave any strategy notes visible? The sick feeling in my stomach answers before my words can form. Last night, I printed our complete protection timeline and left it beside my laptop. They might know what we're planning, I whisper. The implication ripples through the room like a stone dropped in still water. If Clayton and Clarissa suspect we're documenting their actions, they'll accelerate their timeline. Destroy evidence. Change tactics. My phone rings, Clayton's name flashing on the screen. I answer the speaker. Hey sis. His voice carries that artificial cheerfulness that always precedes bad news. Just letting you know we're touring Cedar Ridge Manor tomorrow. They've got an opening in their memory care wing. Perfect timing, right? The casual cruelty of his words steals my breath. Through the window, I can still see Dad carefully measuring a piece of cedar for the birdhouse roof. His hands, the ones that built our home, that held mine when Mom died, move with purpose and precision. Clayton, I begin, fighting to keep my voice steady. Gordon shakes his head sharply, mouthing, "Don't tip our hand." I swallow my actual response. "I'll check my schedule." After hanging up, Dr. Morgan's expression has hardened. If they suspect we're on to the medication tampering, they might change tactics, possibly something harder to detect. What? Gordon gathers the legal documents into a folder. We need to implement these immediately. No more waiting for the perfect moment. Through the open window, I catch fragments of Clarissa's phone conversation as she exits Dad's office. We need to move quickly. They're gathering evidence. The words confirm our worst fears. Our carefully constructed timeline has just collapsed from weeks to hours. The new POA is ready, Gordon says, his voice dropping to match the urgency of the moment. We just need Len's signature during a documented clear period. Dr. Morgan checks her watch. I'll be there tomorrow morning. His medication levels should be optimal then. I move with newfound determination, texting our neighbor Martha, who has agreed to stay overnight. The security camera feeds now display on my phone, requiring hourly checks. Tomorrow. Everything comes down to tomorrow. I arrange the dining room for the document signing, positioning the camera to capture every angle. The notary is scheduled for 10 a.m. when Dad is typically most lucid. As darkness falls, I make one final check of the house security system. The cameras reveal Dad sitting in his workshop, examining the completed birdhouse with satisfaction. Outside his window, Mom's roses catch the last light of day. Tomorrow we take back control. I whisper to Mom's memory as I set the security alarm. Behind me, the binder of evidence stands ready. The cameras record silently. The legal documents await signatures. The fortress is complete. The unmarked white van pulls into our driveway at 8:42 the next morning. Two attendants in pale blue scrubs step out, followed by Clayton in his tailored suit. Clarissa emerges last, her clinic administrator efficiency on full display in her pressed pantsuit and tight bun. I freeze at the kitchen window, a coffee mug suspended halfway to my lips. Dad sits at the table behind me, peacefully spreading strawberry jam on his toast. Stevie? Dad's voice carries that morning clarity that's become more precious in recent weeks. Is someone here? Someone here? Before I can answer, the doorbell rings with an authoritative triple chime. My stomach drops to somewhere near my knees. It's just Clayton, I say, straining to keep my voice steady. Finish your breakfast, Dad. I open the front door, blocking the entrance with my body. Clayton's smile is corporate confidence personified, but his eyes hold something more dangerous desperation. Good morning, Stephanie, he says, loudly enough for neighbors to hear. We've come to help Dad with his transition to Cedar Ridge Manor. The transport team is here to make it comfortable. I grip the doorframe. There's been no agreement about any transition. Clayton slips a folder from his leather portfolio. Emergency guardianship papers, signed yesterday by Judge Westbrook. Dad is in immediate danger living here without proper care. My brain races to process his words while scanning for Gordon's car not due for another hour. Dr. Morgan won't arrive until 10. Clayton has timed this perfectly. Let us in, Stevie, Clarissa says, her voice honey-sweet. Leonard needs professional care. The facility doctor has reviewed his case and agrees. A few neighbors have paused their morning routines to watch. Mrs. Downing waters her petunias with exaggerated slowness. Bill Harrison collects his newspaper in glacial motion. You can't just take him, I say, but Clayton pushes past me, the attendants following with practiced efficiency. Dad, Clayton announces as he strides into the kitchen. Remember we talked about Cedar Ridge? Today's the day. Dad looks up from his half-eaten toast, confusion clouding his eyes. Today? but I haven't packed anything. These gentlemen will help with that, Clarissa says, placing her hand on Dad's shoulder. Just the essentials for now. Thanks for watching. The taller attendant, Rick, according to his name badge, speaks in the practiced cadence of someone who's done this hundreds of times. Mr. Cooper, we'll make this quick and comfortable. Your room is all prepared. I step between them and Dad. Show me the emergency guardianship. Clayton hands me the document, confidence radiating from him. I scan the pages, my marketing career having taught me to quickly absorb information. The language is dense with legal terminology, but certain phrases jump out: immediate danger, inadequate supervision, declining cognitive state. This is based on lies, I say, fighting to keep my voice from shaking. Dad has round-the-clock care. From you, Clarissa says with professional sympathy that doesn't reach her eyes, without medical training. The attendants move past me, one heading upstairs with an empty duffel bag, the other opening cabinets in search of medication. Stop, I say, but my voice sounds distant even to myself. Dad stands, confusion etching deeper lines into his face. Eleanor wouldn't want me to leave the roses, he says, looking toward the garden, where Mom's prized flowers still bloom. I promised her. Clarissa removes a small pill case from her purse. Leonard, you're getting agitated. Let me give you something to keep you calm during transfer. I lunge forward, but Clayton blocks my path. This is happening, Stevie. Dad signed the POA. I have guardianship now. That POA was signed when he was over-medicated, I say, my voice finding its strength. You've been drugging him. Clayton's smile doesn't waver, but his eyes harden. Careful, Stephanie. Accusations like that could be considered slander. Resist this and you'll face criminal charges for elder endangerment. A police cruiser pulls up behind the transport van. Officer Ramirez steps out, the same officer who helped when Dad wandered to the park last winter. I called for police presence to ensure a peaceful transfer. Clayton explains to the neighbors who have gathered on their porches. His voice carries just the right note of regretful concern. My sister sometimes becomes emotional. My heart hammers against my ribs. Dad is looking at the pill in Clarissa's palm with foggy compliance. The attendant upstairs is opening drawers. The countdown to losing everything has begun. Then Gordon's Lincoln Continental screeches into the driveway, parking at an angle that blocks the transport van. He steps out, carrying a leather briefcase, followed immediately by Dr. Morgan, clutching her medical bag. They move with the coordinated efficiency of people who have prepared for this exact scenario. Perfect timing, I whisper, relief washing through me like a physical force. Gordon doesn't waste time with greetings. He approaches Officer Ramirez directly, extending a document folder. Officer, I have a court order protecting Leonard Cooper pending a capacity hearing next week. These emergency proceedings were filed without proper notification of family or existing medical providers. Clayton's confidence wavers. Gordon, this doesn't concern you. As Leonard's brother and co-agent on his most recent power of attorney, it absolutely does, Gordon replies without looking at Clayton. Doctor. Morgan moves to Dad's side, her hand gently taking the pill from Clarissa's palm. I'll need to document what medication you're administering, Mrs. Hale. Her tone is professional but carries unmistakable authority. I pull my tablet from the counter, queuing up the security footage from the system we installed after the realtor confrontation. Officer Ramirez, I have video evidence of my brother and his wife tampering with my father's medication. Dr. Morgan has confirmed it's a non-prescribed sedative. The attendants exchange uncomfortable glances. Rick steps away from Dad's medication organizer, hands raised slightly. Perhaps we should pause the transfer while we sort this out. The second attendant suggests, clearly sensing he's walked into something beyond a routine pickup. Officer Ramirez looks between the conflicting documents, her expression professionally neutral. I think everyone needs to remain here while I clarify the situation. Clayton's controlled facade cracks slightly. Officer, my sister has been keeping Dad isolated. She's preventing necessary medical care. That's not accurate. Mrs. Downing calls from just outside the front door. Stevie takes Leonard to Dr. Morgan every week. I drive them sometimes. More neighbors murmur in agreement. The community alliance we've built during these preparation months stands firm. I handed Officer Ramirez a thumb drive. This contains financial records showing my brother has billed our father's accounts for consulting services at 4 times market rate. Cedar Ridge Manor requires an $85,000 upfront payment, exactly the amount Clayton needs to cover his failed tech investment. Clarissa steps forward, tears welling in her eyes. We only want what's best for Leonard. Dr. Morgan kneels beside Dad, checking his pupils and pulse. Leonard appears to be showing signs of over-medication. His speech is slurred, and his pupils are constricted. Dr. Morgan. Officer Ramirez speaks into her radio, requesting a supervisor and an elder services representative. The point of no return has been reached. Whoever the authorities believe will gain control. Dad grips my hand, his fingers cold and trembling. Stevie, he says, his words slightly slurred. Something's wrong. I feel foggy. Stay with us, Dad, I say, holding his hand between both of mine. Help is coming. Doctor. Morgan documents his symptoms methodically, her recorder capturing every observation. These symptoms match the non-prescribed medication we found in his system last week. Clayton paces by the window, his phone pressed to his ear. This is completely unnecessary, he says to no one in particular. She's been keeping him isolated, officer. Gordon arranges his evidence packages on the dining room table, the same table where this nightmare began on Dad's birthday. The independent medical assessment, financial records, and video documentation are all organized chronologically, he explains to Officer Ramirez. A sedan pulls into our already crowded driveway. Diana Wilson from Elder Services steps out, followed by Detective Barrett. The police officer secures the premises, ensuring no one leaves before the situation is resolved. The truth comes out now, I whisper to Dad, who squeezes my hand with surprising strength. His eyes find mine with a moment of perfect clarity. I never wanted to leave our home, Stevie. The detective enters with purpose, surveying the room filled with medical professionals, attendants, family members, and neighbors. The final battle that will decide everything is about to begin. I stand my ground beside Dad's chair, my hand still in his. Whatever happens next, I won't let him face it alone. Elder Services investigator Diane Williams takes position in the center of the living room, her weathered notebook already open, pen poised. Her silver-rimmed glasses catch the light as she surveys the tense tableau before her. Clayton in his tailored suit, Clarissa with her perfect posture, Detective Roberts reviewing evidence files by the window, and me, still holding Dad's trembling hand. I'd like to begin by speaking with Mr. Cooper alone, Williams announces, voice neutral but commanding. Absolutely not. Clayton steps forward, hand sliding into his suit pocket. My father is clearly disoriented. Any statement he makes right now would be inadmissible. Williams doesn't flinch. Sir, I've been doing this for 27 years. I know how to assess capacity during an interview. And I'm his son, Clayton counters. You have no right. Actually, Detective Roberts interrupts, looking up from the folder I prepared. This medical directive signed 3 weeks ago grants Miss Cooper and Mr. Gordon Cooper medical advocacy rights. The documentation appears properly notarized. Clayton's face flushes dark red. That's impossible. My father hasn't been cognitively capable of signing legal documents for months. Dr. Morgan steps forward, medical bag in hand. I evaluated Leonard Cooper during the signing. We have video documentation of the assessment showing clear decisional capacity at that time. She produces a tablet from her bag. Would you like to view the recording now, Detective? The medical technician kneels beside Dad, gently taking his wrist. Mr. Cooper, I'd like to draw some blood for testing, if that's all right with you. Clayton moves forward. He can't consent. Gordon Cooper has medical power of attorney, Roberts reminds him, voice hardening, and he's already authorized the procedure. Uncle Gordon stands in the doorway, arms crossed, watching Clayton with a mixture of sadness and resolve. Clay, this has gone far enough. The technician labels the vial of blood while Williams flips through my binder of evidence. Her eyebrows rise slightly as she examines the medication logs with attached photographs. These show a consistent pattern, she murmurs to Roberts. Blue pills appearing only on days when Mrs. Hale administered medication. That matches the video evidence, Roberts confirms, glancing at his tablet. The living room screen displays footage of Clarissa adding unlabeled pills to Dad's organizer 3 days ago. The timestamp glows clear and undeniable in the corner. Clayton's attorney mask slips momentarily as he glimpses the screen. His eyes widen, then narrow as he calculates new odds. Detective? I say, keeping my voice steady despite the anger burning in my chest. You'll find our financial documentation beginning on page 12. The highlighted entries show consulting fees billed to my father's accounts $58,400 for services never rendered. Williams turns pages deliberately, examining bank statements. Mrs. Hale, can you explain these cash withdrawals? 6 withdrawals of $700 each, marked household expenses, but with no corresponding receipts. Clarissa's perfectly composed expression falters. Leonard wanted cash available. He becomes anxious about money sometimes. That's interesting, Robert says, because Mr. Cooper's appointment calendar shows he was at physical therapy during 3 of these withdrawals, the ones you signed for. The medical technician stands, holding a testing kit. Detective, preliminary results show presence of a benzodiazepine compound, not matching any of Mr. Cooper's prescribed medications. Dad's breathing quickens. His hand tightens around mine, eyes searching the room in confusion. Stevie, he whispers. What's happening? It's okay, Dad, I assure him, though rage pulses behind my temples. We're just sorting things out. Fangs. Detective Roberts approaches Clarissa. Mrs. Hale, do you have any prescription medications in your possession? Of course not, just my purse essentials. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Would you consent to a search of your purse? Clarissa hesitates, glancing at Clayton. I don't see why that's necessary. I can obtain a warrant, Roberts offers mildly. Clarissa's shoulders sag slightly. Fine. If it will end this ridiculous charade. Fine. Roberts accepts the purse, methodically examining its contents. He removes a small, unmarked pill bottle, holding it up to the light. Blue tablets. Can you identify these, Mrs. Hale? Those are. Clarissa's voice falters. Supplements. For Leonard's memory. His doctor recommended them. Clarissa's. Dr. Morgan steps forward. I'm Leonard's physician of record. I prescribe no such supplements, and I see no documentation of these in his medical records. Clayton interjects sharply. Clarissa was simply trying to help. If there was any misunderstanding about medication. Mr. Cooper, Williams interrupts. We're well beyond misunderstandings. The financial records alone indicate a pattern of exploitation. Roberts bags the pill bottle as evidence. Mrs. Hale, Mr. Cooper, I need you both to step into separate rooms for questioning. This is absurd, Clayton protests. We're trying to get my father appropriate care, and Stevie is preventing it because she can't accept reality. The neighbor who called the police, Martha Wilson, steps forward from her post by the front door. That's not true. I've watched Leonard improve when Stevie manages his care. And I've seen strangers coming through this house when Clarissa was here alone, realtors, contractors, looking at things, measuring rooms. Williams nods to 2 officers waiting in the hallway. Please escort Mrs. Hale to the dining room and Mr. Cooper to the study. Separate them for individual statements. As Clarissa passes, her composure cracks. Clayton handled all the paperwork, she hisses. I was just following his instructions about Leonard's care. Clayton's jaw tightens. Don't say another word, Clarissa. The room rearranges as they're led away. Detective Roberts turns to me, expression grave but satisfied. Miss Cooper, based on preliminary evidence, we have serious concerns about your father's safety under the previous arrangement. Williams consults her notes. We'll be issuing an emergency protective order and appointing you temporary guardian pending court review. Elder Services will file for emergency freezing of all Leonard Cooper's financial accounts to prevent further exploitation. Uncle Gordon's hand grips my shoulder. They never expected this level of preparation, Stevie. The medical technician confers with Dr. Morgan, arranging proper medication protocols. He should begin showing improvement within days once we remove the sedative from his system. Roberts secures the pill organizer, financial documents, and Clarissa's purse in evidence bags. We're opening a criminal investigation. Elder abuse is taken very seriously in this county. Martha approaches with 2 other neighbors. We've been worried for weeks. We'd be happy to provide statements about what we've observed. Williams offers a tight smile. That would be very helpful. Through the dining room windows, I see Clarissa seated alone, face buried in her hands. Through the study doorway, Clayton paces, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing emphatically as an officer watches. Their world collapses while ours rebuilds. The restraining order will be effective immediately, Williams explains. Neither of them can contact Leonard or enter this property. Dad's eyes seem clearer already, though I know that's imagination rather than medicine. The sedative will take hours to leave his system. But there's a light in his expression I haven't seen in weeks. Eleanor's roses, he murmurs, glancing toward the garden. They're safe now. Doctor. Morgan reviews Dad's medication list with the technician. I'll supervise a proper tapering schedule. With correct medication management, we should see significant cognitive improvement. The front door opens as more neighbors arrive, drawn by police cars and concerned text messages. They cluster in small groups, offering quiet support. Mrs. Jensen approaches with a casserole dish. For dinner tonight, she explains, and I'll be back tomorrow with breakfast. Mr. Patterson, who taught high school chemistry with Mom, steps forward. Some of us could set up a rotation, property watches, transportation to appointments, whatever you need. Williams observes this community mobilization with approval. Your documentation was extraordinary, Miss Cooper. Most families don't recognize the signs until assets are completely depleted. Uncle Gordon shakes his head. Ben Cooper's daughter through and through. Meticulous when it matters most. I kneel beside Dad's chair as Detective Roberts coordinates with the officers. Dad's fingers, once strong enough to build this house beam by beam, trace the pattern on the armchair, Eleanor reupholstered 20 years ago. You saved our home, Stevie, he says, voice strengthening as the fog begins to lift. Detective Roberts approaches one last time, closing his notebook. Without your intervention, this could have ended tragically. We see too many cases where no one notices until it's too late. I watch through the window as Clayton and Clarissa are escorted to separate police vehicles not under arrest yet, but thoroughly removed from Dad's life. The weight that's pressed on my chest since that birthday dinner finally lifts. Dad's home remains his sanctuary. Mom's roses will continue to bloom under his care. Stevie, Dad whispers, squeezing my hand with surprising strength. Thank you for believing me when I couldn't explain what was happening. I rest my head against his shoulder, feeling the cotton of his favorite blue shirt against my cheek. Always, Dad. Always. 1 month after the investigation, I stood in Mom's garden, pruning the June roses that survived another Northwest winter. Their scent mingles with fresh coffee steam rising from my mug on the stone bench, the one Dad installed when Mom started chemotherapy, so she could still supervise her flowers without standing too long. Morning, kiddo. Dad appears in the kitchen doorway, dressed in khakis and the blue flannel shirt I bought him last Christmas. No bathrobe, no confusion about what day it is. His medication, the correct medication, is working. Morning, Dad. Sleep okay? I clip a spent bloom, adding it to my basket. Like a rock. Coffee smells good. This simple exchange would have been impossible 6 weeks ago, when Clayton and Clarissa's medication adjustments left him barely able to string sentences together. Now, the cloud has lifted. Doctor. Morgan says his cognition might never fully return to pre-tampering levels, but the improvement has been remarkable. Dad settles on the bench, newspaper tucked under his arm. The daily ritual we've reclaimed, Gordon called, he says, opening to the crossword. Clayton's suspension from Ridgeway Capital was terminated yesterday. I nod, focusing on a particularly stubborn Kane needing attention. The aftermath rolled through our community like summer thunder. Clayton facing criminal charges for elder exploitation, Clarissa's nursing license under review. Their downtown penthouse dreams replaced with mounting legal fees. How do you feel about that? I ask, watching Dad's face carefully. He considers the question, pencil tapping against his knee. I should probably feel worse about my own son's downfall. But every morning I wake up clear-headed in the house Eleanor and I built. He gestures toward the garden, the workshop beyond, the life preserved. Seems like justice to me. He wanna want it. Mrs. Farnsworth from next door waves over the fence, garden gloves caked with spring soil. She's Tuesday on our neighborhood schedule, checking in, bringing lunch, providing company when I need 2 hours for focused work calls. The calendar on our refrigerator blooms with names, a community rallying once they understood what was happening under their noses. Stevie? Dad's voice pulls me back. That foundation paperwork Gordon brought over, did you decide? The Eleanor Cooper Foundation. Gordon's idea, born during late-night strategy sessions at his dining room table. Education, about elder financial abuse, resources for families. A legacy from our nightmare. I'm meeting with the lawyer this afternoon, I say, pruning shears pausing mid-snip. Think Mom would approve? Dad's smile reaches his eyes clear blue, present, aware. She'd say it's about time something good grew from something terrible. Inside, my laptop chimes with an incoming video call. The remote position with watershed marketing pays 30% less than my old job but offers the flexibility caregiving demands. My supervisor understands when appointments interrupt deadlines. Don't forget you're meeting Gordon and Dr. Morgan for lunch? Dad reminds me, startling us both with this evidence of his improving memory. Something about permanent guardianship papers? The court finalized our arrangement last week, Gordon and I, serving as co-guardians, all new advance directives properly filed. No more legal gray areas for anyone to exploit. 2:00 at Madeline's. I confirm, gathering my pruning basket. Want to come along? We could stop by the senior center afterward. The center where Dad now participates 3 times weekly in their woodworking program, teaching younger retirees the joinery techniques that built this house. Another piece of normalcy reclaimed. I move inside to take my call, watching through the window as Dad completes his crossword in the morning light. 6 months ago, I couldn't have imagined this peace, the constant knot of vigilance finally loosening between my shoulder blades. My phone vibrates with a text from Barbara Wilkins, whose mother started showing similar symptoms to Dad's decline. After hearing our story, she took her mother for independent medical evaluation, discovering similar medication issues with her brother-in-law. Documentation worked, her message reads. Restraining order granted yesterday. I type back, document everything, build your team, trust your instincts, the mantra that saved us. Later that afternoon, I find Dad in his workshop, sanding the curved back of a garden bench, a wedding gift for Gordon's daughter. His movements are precise, confident, the craftsmanship undiminished. The foundation approval came through, I tell him, running my hand over the smooth oak. We're official. He nods, setting aside his sandpaper. Your mother would be proud of you, Stevie, not just for saving the house, for helping others protect what matters. This from the man who, 1 year ago, couldn't remember where he kept his sandpaper. The same man Clayton insisted needed institutionalization, for his own good. The local newspaper featured our story last week, focusing on warning signs of elder exploitation. 3 families have already reached out through Dr. Morgan's office, seeking guidance for situations painfully similar to ours. Camila's coming tomorrow afternoon, I remind Dad, referring to the part-time caregiver we hired, not because Dad needs constant supervision anymore, but because I've finally learned that protecting him includes protecting myself from burnout. Good. I can show her how to prune the rhododendrons, Dad says, returning to his sanding with the steady rhythm that built this house beam by beam. Through the workshop window, I can see Eleanor's roses catching late afternoon light, vibrant against the weathered cedar siding. Next year, on Dad's 73rd birthday, we'll host a proper celebration in the dining room. Gordon, Dr. Morgan, neighbors, Camila, all raising glasses in the home that remains ours. And perhaps someday we'll finally take that trip to Acadia National Park that Mom always wanted. I can almost see us there, standing on Cadillac Mountain for sunrise, Dad squeezing my hand as light breaks over the Atlantic. But for now, this is enough. Dad in his workshop, roses blooming where Mom planted them, the foundation paperwork signed on the kitchen counter. Love made visible not just through emotion, but through vigilance, clear boundaries, and the courage to protect what matters. I watch Dad working, his hands steady on wood he selected for its grain, and recognize the truest lesson of our ordeal. If you notice a loved one becoming confused only after someone else administers their medication, don't question your instincts. Document everything, find allies, and never stop fighting for the family that matters.